At Taurus Marketing, CEO Sharon Williams takes pride in the clients she's worked with who've become friends and who she's helped play a part in their future. It is, she believes, a measure of her success. One former Taurus client is Ted Egan, entrepreneur and philanthropist, and he's here with us today. Welcome, Sharon and Ted.
Thanks, glad to be here.
Sharon, over the years you've worked with many special people who have achieved incredible careers, and one of these former clients is, of course, Ted. Tell us, is this a source of pride for you?
Oh, huge pride that relationships like Ted and I go back some 16 years, and we've worked on several initiatives together, but primarily Ted's business that he grew and sold successfully. So to still be in touch and still be able to catch up and shoot the breeze is what life's all about.
Ted, tell us about that company you were running at the time and how you came to work with Taurus.
I guess that company was initially, it was Trust Defender, and it was a cybersecurity company. We'd taken that company and developed it mainly because we thought the antivirus world and the security, in banking, they were telling us that we have to be secure and online, and mums and dads had no idea really how to be security professionals. So I guess we had to put our hand up and decided to develop a solution, and one thing led to another. As our business started to take off, we started to win awards, but the point was that we needed to scale our business. We needed professionalism, and we were learning pretty much bit by bit. And we looked around for a PR company to step up with, and Sharon was the person I was introduced to. And one thing led to another, and I guess it's a bit about being friends. It's a bit about trust. It's a lot about trust and mentoring. And I think from Sharon's team and Sharon herself, the big piece of it was mentoring process through how do you build a brand, how do you build confidence in yourself to be able to do things like this, talk on TV and talk to people and go the next steps and sell your story, and that's what it's all about, is people having trust in what you're selling or the business you're building.
If you can think back to when the company started, how did Taurus help in those early days?
I think where it started, you have to have an open mind. So when we walked in there, we kind of thought we knew what we knew, but the point was we didn't. And Sharon slowly unpicked that and taught us a little bit about how to present our story, how to present what is the product that we're selling, who are we, what is the brand, who we are as the founders of the business, and also what is the problem that we're solving. So that was really important for us to be able to articulate, and that's the key point. How do you articulate what you're selling to the marketplace? And there's many steps that Sharon's team and Sharon herself would take you aside and take you through each of those steps piece by piece. Painful sometimes, but most importantly, it would take you through those pieces to give you guidance on how to present it, how to bring together the argument, the story, and to be able to put that into, whether it's through your PR media or whether you've been interviewed on TV.
Sharon, give us some specifics about what you worked on together with you and Ted and his company at the start.
So I took Ted through the Taurus methodology, which is the bullseye. So we started off to get the story of Trust Defender right, the key messages, working on the personal brands of the tech gurus within Ted's business, as well as him as a leader and his co-manager, co-founder. And once you've got that right at the beginning, then everything else flows through. But what we had to do was gracefully negotiate that was the process, and Ted had to trust us and work with us on it. And Ted was in a tough business, cybersecurity. He's used to working ex-military, used to working with governments and the hardest situations on the planet. And so to take you through that process, it was well, it was enjoyable because we're still here, and we made it happen, didn't we?
Yes. It turned out a great success story, and I guess those little pieces, the Bullseye program, or the pieces, you don't really take it away and say, hey, that's the Taurus Bullseye program or methodology. You kind of, it becomes part of how you operate yourself. And when you, as we grew our business, so, we started with a small business that initially our initial customers were mums and dads. And then it was the small credit unions. Then it was the banks in Australia. And then internationally, before we knew ourselves, we were in the US and we were in the UK, opening up our business. We're expanding quite fast. And then, there's also some of the hurdles that you have when you're scaling a business. When you take an Australian company, which is the tyranny of distance of where you are, and you try and take it to the rest of the world, it means you're going to spend a lot of time on planes. It's going to mean you're going to spend a lot of time outside your comfort zone. And really, when taking that back to what we learned at Taurus was at Taurus, Sharon took us through that confidence building so that you can take that to the rest of the world. So that's really important, that that methodology right from the beginning has a lot of impact with how you approach things later on in life.
It's a great wrap. And do you have any memories of working with Taurus that you'd want to highlight now?
I guess some of the memories was it's just putting together the marketing material, the collateral, training. Doing the training for how to do interviews, how to present yourself in an interview. Hopefully, I've learned something from those days, but it was those sort of little pieces that are really powerful in what we did. And also the negotiation piece was how you negotiate with some pretty, how would I say, hard-nosed people who, they think they're right all the time. And one thing I've learned about this and is in my industry, what I thought was people knew what they were talking about. They were very articulate. I found out they had no idea what they were talking about. They're very good at reading books, but they weren't very good at actually seeing the real life cyber security or cyber attacks in motion. And, and then take all that back and put that into material that we can use that in the public arena.
What about you, Sharon? What are some of your fondest memories of working with Ted back in the day?
My fondest memories are being in those boardrooms, negotiating to take us forward, not as a client supplier, but as a belief and a purpose and a mission, and what the key messaging was around the brand to enable Ted to take it globally, which he did, and he sold the business globally, and it was an extraordinary success story, wasn't it? So the fun and the reward of those conversations driving the narrative of the business.
Yeah, and I think what any business does is when you go and find a partner in the early days, and you've got to remember that sometimes with Sharon's become a friend, even though as we got bigger, we had more partners in the public relations space. Sharon was always there in the background, and it was always someone you could ring up and talk to about some of the challenges that you have, especially when dealing with scenarios in the US or scenarios in Europe, UK and so forth. So Sharon's, we've developed our friendship through her ongoing mentoring even to this day.
If you had to narrow it down, it's not easy, I'm sure, to one or two things that you learnt from Sharon and Taurus that you now still use in your everyday work life, what would they be?
Confidence. The amount of confidence that Sharon instills in you that you can take forward. Sharon has such confidence in herself and has this exuberance. And that's something that I've taken from Sharon is that when you have that conversation with Sharon, she gives you the confidence yourself. And confidence, you need confidence to be able to sell your business, to sell your dream, to sell your ideas, and to build and to bring people around you. Because as you probably know, that a lot of Sharon's team that works with her have gone on to be very successful around the world. And it's amazing when you're part of that team and working with them, that confidence is what gives you the ability to, you know, take a little idea in Australia and turn it into a global phenomenon. Yeah.
So you've left that company behind. What are you working on now?
I've got lots of investments now. I make lots of investments in, and I do a bit of philanthropy. I also do a little bit of coaching for startups who, CEOs who are learning, going through the same process that I went through years ago, probably trying more so to help them not make the same mistakes that I did, running the same roadblocks, to get them to get the confidence that they can go globally as well with their ideas. But these are the things you've got to worry about before you go globally. Because a lot of people go overseas and they don't have any of the support that they need when they go overseas. So that's important. And also, I guess what I've also done is I've invested in some of those companies as well, and given them that extra money that they're able to boost their businesses and go overseas and I guess employ the right chief revenue officers, the right sales team, the right technical team to support their growth globally.
What an empowered position to be in. If you were to recommend other people, other companies to work with Taurus and with Sharon, I think I know the answer to this, but what would you say?
By all means, I would recommend Sharon all the time. I when I meet small firms, and you know, it's up to them. You know, I don't say they have to go and you know what they need to do, but at a certain stage in their growth, they need companies like Sharon, and that's when I recommend, you know, if they're in that growth stage, that early growth stage, it's a good time to engage with Sharon. To help put the right messaging together, put the right branding together, and that branding really gives it strength for those companies to go overseas or grow even in Australia and solidify their businesses. And that's usually where I come along and say, well, I know somebody who you should talk to, and it's Sharon.
That relationship has certainly paid off all these years. Thanks, Sharon. Thanks, Ted.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Jacinta.
Thank you.